Welcome to the Cup of Joe Political Show here on Westchester Talk Radio, westchestertalkradio.com. Produced by Sharc, that's Sharc with a C, not a K, as you can see right over my shoulder here. This shoulder on this side, no, this shoulder on this side. There we go. There we go. Back here. There you go. Right behind me in the big orange logo. WestchesterTalkRadio.com, produced by Sharc with a C, not a K, Creative. I'm John Marino, and we are made possible by our good friends over at Entergy, the Indian Point Energy Center. At Entergy, they promise over in Buchanan to keep us powered throughout Westchester and the surrounding area right through April of 2021. Also by Lipolis Electric. Don't be left in the dark. Get Lipolis. And by Hightower Westchester over at Hightower, they promise to manage your wealth to a fiduciary standard. We are joined today here on Westchester Talk Radio by Carl Fulgenzi. Carl is the supervisor of the town of Mount Pleasant in central to northern Westchester, and that's an area encompassing places like the hamlets of over in the town of Mount Pleasant. A lot of areas in the town. Hamlets of Valhalla, Hawthorne, also Thornwood, Scarborough, and Pocantico Hills. And you have villages including Pleasantville and Sleepy Hollow, and also a portion of Briarcliff Manor, too. Carl Fulgenzi, good to talk to you again. Glad to have you with us on Westchester Talk Radio. This has been quite a unique year, 2020, a year like no other, without a doubt. We're hitting, since we are into September now, we're hitting the final quarter of the year. How badly has the COVID pandemic struck in the town of Mount Pleasant?
I think like everyone else, we saw the additional expenses of preparing for COVID, supplying necessary people and products to keep everyone safe. We had the impact of the sales tax, major loss in sales tax that we expected. Obviously, we all expected more sales tax this year with the change that the county made, adding the 1% to the sales tax. So that was a major impact. We're still calculating all that right now. We're entering our budget process, and the idea is to tighten everyone's belt. That's what we're telling our department heads to do.
When does the budget for 2021 have to be due?
I give it, it takes me about a month to get it all. I go through each department with the controller, myself and the department head. We review all their wish list, their wants and what they can have. And then we cut it up and we come up with a budget. That I usually submit to the town board in November, sometimes earlier if we have it prepared for their review. They review it and they can make their comments on it. It's brought to the public in November. The beginning of November, we usually have a public hearing on the budget. There's a draft budget that's basically open for the public review. And then by, I think it's latter part of December, it has to be finally approved by the town board.
What seems to be the reaction right now of the town board as to what needs to be done financially in Mount Pleasant? You've talked about trying to rein things back in, obviously, with spending, et cetera, which everybody is doing. Does the town board seem to be okay with whatever needs to be done to try to make Mount Pleasant whole again?
Oh, definitely. All of the board is understanding of what we need to do. So it's not a problem getting them to work with us, especially when we're trying to save money. Whatever we can do to hold the line on taxes, we're all on the same page on that.
And yet the residents of the town understand that, I'm sure that their services have to be provided for, they have to be paid for in some way, and you have to make that work to what's best for everybody in the town.
Yeah, definitely. We are all residents of the town. We are all taxpayers in the town. So we're not strangers to what it costs to pay taxes in Mount Pleasant. So we understand what everyone's understanding is on the taxes. So we want to do our best so that we all aren't impacted negatively. Unfortunately, the cost of things never really goes down. Things increase. We have our labor contracts, which have been established for a few years. There are set increases in there. There are healthcare costs that never go down. There are pension costs that don't go away. So these are all things that are set costs that we really can't do much about. The only thing we can do is, which we never like to do, is cut back on some services. But that's something we always avoid doing.
I noticed that, and this is, I think, a tri-state area thing, maybe because we grow up in this area and we know, unfortunately, how it works, that this is the highest taxed area in the country, and you hear of people in areas around the country and areas where they're taxed much lower complaining about their taxes. Yet, I think we understand around here, without taxes, we don't have anything, and people seem to buy into that.
I think there's a lot of misunderstanding because like the other day, somebody grabbed me in the shopping center and said, you got to do something about my school taxes. And I said, I wish I could. I said, mine are high also. I said, but I have no control over that. I think a lot of people believe that because we collect school tax, that we have some controls over it. I said, that's strictly with the school board, school administration. And I said, they're trying to do whatever they can. I know that there's fixed costs with them also. There's building costs that they have to deal with. So as much as I wish I could do something about the school tax, I have nothing to do with that.
I'm glad you brought up that incident because I like to ask public officials from time to time, how often does somebody stop you in the middle of town and say, hey, lower my taxes? And it does happen. There's no doubt about that. And with that, and you're in the position where you have to explain, look, this is what we need to do so we can have X, Y, and Z. And if we can't do this, we might not be able to have Z. We might not even be able to have most of X and Y. And that goes with the turf, obviously. The reopening in Mount Pleasant over the course of the past couple of months now with the pandemic seemingly on the other side. We're waiting to see what happens in the fall, obviously, what the medical experts say there could be some concern again in the fall. But right now we're well into reopening. How is it going in the town of Mount Pleasant around all the different areas of town?
We brought back, we were down to 50% employees. We were rotating employees in and out of town hall. A lot of people working remotely. We had laptops that they were using, whether it was their own or the town-owned laptops, they were using those for all the critical employees, making sure they kept up to date with what was going on. I think one of our biggest, probably busiest departments was our building department because there's a lot going on in the town of Mount Pleasant, luckily. People investing in town, wanting to improve their buildings, and developers wanting to come to this town, which is a good thing for our tax base. So the building department kept very busy during that whole time. We had opened up, we brought our employees back at the beginning of June, and then I think probably 5 days later, we opened up to the public. By opening up, we opened up, people had to come in and sign in. We had a greeter at town hall. They had to answer some questions about their health and stuff like that. And then they were able to go to whatever department they wanted to visit.
Now, we have restaurants with outdoor dining, and there is a big push for indoor dining to start. I see in New Jersey now they are starting to do some indoor dining. You go out to Long Island, there's indoor dining. And I see Mayor de Blasio's latest reasoning why restaurants can't have indoor dining. Now he didn't cite health. He said it's an economic thing. Some people can afford to pay for indoor dining and some can't, to which I say I'm all for if things have to be closed indoors, can only do outside if it's for health reasons. But if you're saying that some people can pay for indoor dining, eat at a restaurant, well, don't they have to pay outside too?
Yeah.
There's no discount to sit inside or outside.
That doesn't make a hell of a lot of sense to me, but we do have restaurants that are open for indoor dining. It's restricted. You know, you can only have a certain amount of people. The tables are spread apart. You don't have people sitting next to each other. So we do have some restaurants in town that I'm aware of that are serving lunch and dinner.
Now, we are, like I said, in September. Schools are ready to open. The face of that is going to look different in every community, I think, around the state of New York. What are your thoughts on getting schools open? Should they be open full time? Should we have mixed learning or some sort of combination there?
You know, better minds than I are going to figure out what the school process should be. I personally believe that kids should be able to socialize in the school setting. I think the schools need to do everything they can to protect the health and welfare of all their kids and their administration. Whether the kids have to wear masks all day long, they're not on top of each other in classrooms. That's something I know that the schools have been working on. But I really believe it's very important for young people. As I recall, the best time of my life was going to school, high school. So that socialization is very important. It's not only an education by the books, it's education by talking and meeting with others, and that socialization process.
Funny you mention that. I'm about to hook up with some high school friends who, when I began high school 50 years ago this month, contact them on Facebook and say, hey, unfortunately, you know me for 50 years now. So that's what school was about, and yet we want to be as safe as possible, without a doubt. I've heard some stories, some possibilities where, and this could back up high school sports, and each school I guess now has to make their own decision on that too, where locker rooms and gyms could be used, and weight training, workout rooms in schools can be used to separate students and use them as classrooms, maybe back up sports that way. But if that's what has to be done, I'm sure everybody in the schools and governmentally working together will find a way to make it work.
I know that what we still do every week. We have a company that comes in and they disinfect all the offices, all our buildings once a week. They go through everything. It's a disinfecting spray that they spray about the entire buildings. And that's something we've been doing since the beginning. That's part of the additional cost that we have to deal with, but that's the safety of our employees and those that visit town hall.
And we're all trying to be obviously as proactive as possible in everything we do to provide the best safety we can. Carl Fulgenzi is the supervisor of the town of Mount Pleasant, here with us on Westchester Talk Radio, westchestertalkradio.com, produced by Sharc Creative and made possible by our good friends over at N2G, the Indian Point Energy Center. In Buchanan, they promised to power us up right through April of 2021 over at N2G, the Indian Point Energy Center, also by our friends at White Plains Hospital, our heroes throughout the pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic of 2020, Wartburg Healthcare and Rehabilitation in Mount Vernon, and Michael Labriola, Landscape Design and Construction. Carl Fulgenzi, Governor Cuomo has issued a mandate to all localities, municipalities around the state that by early next year, early 2021, he wants on his desk a plan for police reform or restructuring how police will operate in every community statewide. In the town of Mount Pleasant, what do you think at the moment that might entail?
Well, we are already in the process of discussing a committee that we're trying to set up with community members. Could be community members, business members, and possibly people in the police business to sit on a committee and hash around what the problems are, how do we need to address them, and what corrective measures can we come up with. But we've already just started discussing that. We received a guidebook by the governor's office, things that they require of us to look at. And we're going to listen to our citizens and our business people to see where we need to make changes.
I think one thing that has struck me and has struck a lot of people around the area is that throughout the course of this pandemic and throughout the course of the push for social justice and police reform, that everybody's in our area at least seems to be working together. Democrat, Republican, there seems to be no party affiliation, especially the relationship of town supervisors with the county executive. Georgia Latimer, you're a Republican. The county executive is a Democrat. I've heard from other Republicans around the county that there really has been no talk about party. It's about let's stay united, get things done. We're all in this together. And I think that's a credit and a compliment to people like you who just stepped up when you had to step up.
I have always said, when you enter town hall, politics is outside. I never ask anyone what kind of party affiliation is that they have when they come in here with a problem. If you have a problem, it's my responsibility to try to help you. I don't care what party you're in. And that's the way it's supposed to be. Politics stays outside the building.
I like your answer to that and your approach to that. It's reminiscent of when Quincy Jones back in the mid-'80s got everybody together to record We Are the World, and he told all these big stars that he brought in, check your ego at the door. If you want to bring your ego in, well, you're not going to be part of the song. And history was made right there. Carl Fulgenzi, we thank you for being part of what we do here at Westchester Talk Radio, westchestertalkradio.com. I hope we get to talk again soon. Thank you, and all the best the remainder of 2020 to you, and let's hope for a much better 2021.
And to you also. Thank
Great
you.
to talk to you again. Carl Fulgenzi, the town supervisor in Mount Pleasant and central to northern Westchester, encompassing, again, a number of communities like the hamlets of Valhalla and Hawthorne, also Scarborough, Thornwood, and Pocantico Hills, and the villages of Pleasantville and Sleepy Hollow, and a small portion of Briarcliff Manor. Carl Fulgenzi, always a pleasure to talk with you. I'm John Marino. We are Westchester Talk Radio, westchestertalkradio.com, produced by Sharc with a C, not a K, Sharc with a C, Creative, and made possible by our good friends over at Entergy, the Indian Point Energy Center at Entergy in Buchanan, the Indian Point Energy Center. They promise to keep us powered up right through April of 2021 throughout the region. Lipolis Electric at Lipolis. Make sure you are never left in the dark. So get Lipolis and they'll make sure that that's the case for you. Hightower Westchester at Hightower. They manage your wealth to a fiduciary standard. Thanks again to our heroes at White Plains Hospital, all they've done throughout the COVID-19 pandemic, and Wartburg Healthcare and Rehabilitation in Mount Vernon. Also, Park Sterling Realty. Let's not forget our good friends at Park Sterling Realty in Bronxville. We thank you. And Michael Labriola, Landscape Design and Construction. Thanks one and all. We are Westchester Talk Radio, westchestertalkradio.com. Catch all of our Westchester, Putnam, and Fairfield County Talk Radio programming on our YouTube channel, Sharc Creative YouTube.